Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show and welcome to another Hog Hoops Report. That is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. Kevin, it is fall camp week for football. We are still months away from basketball, but that doesn't mean the news slows down. All right. So we're going to talk this week about the CP3 camp in Vegas. There was, a mixture of JJ Andrews, as well as a few Hogs there as well. We'll talk recruiting visits coming up as well for the Hogs in September. Speaking, I guess, of football season as well as we'll wrap with some pro Hogs news. But let's start with that CP3 camp in terms of Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, Malik Thomas, as well as JJ Andrews there in Las Vegas. Lots of quality competition might be an understatement, but those guys participating in that, getting some valuable experience there.
Yeah, and it's kind of a joint camp. They do it interestingly. It's Chris Paul and kind of the guard part of it, and then you've got Jason Tatum. They're kind of a tandem at camp, and it's wings and combo forwards. And so there are no big men as far as I know. It's really guards and wings or big forwards or combo forwards. But it's in the wheelhouse positionally for several of those players. Malik Thomas is a guard, and then you've got three wings when you look at Knox and Billy Richmond on the current team. Obviously, Malik Thomas will be a freshman, true freshman season coming up. And then JJ Andrews committed, fresh off that MVP run at Nike Peach Jam, who's going to have a senior season of high school coming up. So the camp is about 54 players. It is top level guys, about half of those college players, half of those high school players. They did get a lot of mentoring, a lot of drill work. And then they also play competitive 5-on-5, and when they split off into 5-on-5, you've got the college players competing only against college players, freshmen competing only against freshmen. So it's an interesting dynamic. The initial reports that came out, I'm still putting stuff together from my sources before I issue a final assessment. But one of the initial things that stood out was Malik Thomas's three-point shooting and shooting in general. One of the first 5-on-5 games in midweek, I was told the guy was basically a human torch. He was 3 of 3 from 3. And these are untimed. They were, 5-on-5, but they didn't play full games.
Yeah.
So they didn't keep stats in terms of there was a stat sheet afterwards to show you what guys did. If anybody charted stats, it wasn't provided to my sources.
Okay.
So basically, I had to get their memory on it. And the idea was Malik Thomas really went off, scored the ball well. And you like to hear that because Arkansas is going to be counting on him as a three-point shooter, right? There's where some of the biggest question marks will probably land at number one is three-point shooting. Who's going to give it and who's going to do it well? And you're hoping it's a guy like him who had, a 38+% three-point shooter at Overtime Elite last year as a senior in high school, almost 8.5 attempts per game. So that's the kind of volume and efficiency you would just hope for as a true freshman at this level. No guarantee. So against college level competition, he was one of only 3 of the college players, 27, 28, however many there were total. He was one of only 3 that were going to be true freshmen in college. Most of the college players there in that college category had already played at least one season of college basketball. So, to perform well, at least initially, against that level of competition, maybe is a harbinger of good things to come. You don't know. It's a small sample size, but it's better than hearing the alternative. The strength and athleticism of the other 3 is what the scouts that have talked to me about were impressive. It's like a combination of athleticism, size, body-wise, strength. All of those are things that we noticed already with Carter Knox and Billy Richmond. When the media had that 1-hour window back in, July 9th, to go in and look at the team, you could see both of those guys continue to progress physically. And then JJ Andrews is already built like a veteran college player. So those things pop, when you see that even against some of the other top players around the country, those things stand out. And so it's kind of like a model, right? There's a model for the kind of player that Calipari pursues. So when you look at Knox, Richmond again, and JJ Andrews, all in that 6'6" range, all 215, 220 in that range, and then you look at how they're built. And then Billy Richmond III just has that, off the planet athleticism. You're like, wow. And so, again, 4 players effectively representing the Razorbacks. Obviously, one of those, JJ Andrews, a committed player. So he's still got to make it official in November. That's a pretty sizable chunk out of 54. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it's as much, if not more, than any other school had because again, half of those are high school players anyway, and many of which are not committed.
Yeah, yeah, a good contingent there representing the Razorbacks, and it was so great. You had I can't remember when you tweeted or whatever, but you talked about obviously what you were hearing on Malik shooting, and that's so good to hear because of what we've talked about from the moment they
Yeah.
began to put this roster together. Is he had those high school numbers and all the above, but when you looked at this team, how many different times did we say, man, the one thing is how are they going to be able to stretch the floor? They need Carter Knox to take a jump 3-point volume, 3-point efficiency wise. They need guys that are going to be able to spread this out. You hope Trevin can still shoot and convert, catch and shoot wise at a high clip. Hearing Malik do that, even if this is just a limited sample size,
Yeah.
right? It's a positive you want to hear because it's a specific area where fans, all the above have said, hey, maybe this is a question mark for this team that seems to have so many boxes checked.
Yeah. And Malik Thomas is a guy, he's capable. You just don't
Yeah.
know how soon it translates. And so these little moments are just build your confidence that, hey, maybe some of this will splash
Mhm.
really early. And then then you just hope, how consistent can he be? One of the
Yep.
things about Malik is as one of those alpha mentality guys scoring the ball, he didn't have a problem, getting into some, pretty slick dribble drive craft to set up shots. And as you continue to move up, you want to minimize and economize some of that.
Mhm.
Less is more on the pounding of the ball. Get to spots. Be ready and catch and shoot. You don't need 3 dribbles for a good shot. You can maybe access in 1 dribble if
Yeah.
they run hard on that shot line and move you off of it. Those are the nuances that will help him be a better shooter as he goes. But you hear him step on the court out there in that kind of competition, and immediately he's opening eyes as the sniper. I mean, come on, man. That's the stuff that you really like. I have no problem imagining Arkansas being really good in transition. No
Yeah.
problem imagining being really good slash into the basket, getting it done in blue collar ways and in ways where they're flashing that athleticism, that length, size. But the 3-point shooting again, now you're starting to feel like, okay, all right, you're showing a little bit against that kind of competition because that's what you're going to
Mhm.
see moving from the high school level now to the college game. And that was the first little taste of it for him, other than guys he's seen in practice every day. And believe me, having to go head to head Malik Thomas against Billy Reachman III and Carter Knox, that ain't easy, man. That's no picnic. And so maybe
Yeah.
some of that's already prepared him a little bit. And the other thing with Malik is, I heard once the limited summer work, they wrapped that up mid-July. July
Mm.
16th, they were out of there. A week after the media was in there. Uh, so now it's on everybody else, on the players now that they're out of the limited stuff. What are you doing on your own time at
Yep.
this point? And I heard Malik Thomas spent more time in the performance center. A source told me they're in there a lot. Spent more time in there than any other player they noticed. And so those are the kind of things that help you maybe build to moments like he's having against different live bullets all of a sudden. It doesn't count for anything. It's still what, late July, early
Yeah.
August, but maybe it's something to build on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where in the grand scheme, does it mean anything? No, it doesn't. But I think you said it right. It's better than the alternative. Well, what if you'd heard he went out there
Yeah.
and he chucked and went 0 for 9, right? So you'll take what
All
you
right.
can get. And to your point, right, that was the first thing I thought about just in terms of preparation. You head out there and the type of runs this team has had during the spring, summer, et cetera, right? That preps you for an opportunity like that. And you hope, obviously, ultimately, it preps you for the season and sets you up well. We're going to hit a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk recruiting, visits coming up for the Hogs and football season. We'll go through all 3. But first, a quick break and a message from our sponsors. All right, back here on the Hog Hoops Report, Kevin McPherson and Jacob Morris with you. And Kevin, let's switch gears a little bit and talk recruiting. Always active, always prevalent when you're talking Cal's team. 3 visits for the Hogs coming up here in football season. What do you have? What are you expecting just in terms of these guys? I know we have dates on a couple of them, and just, what are the Hogs looking at in terms of a fall visit schedule here?
Well, you're looking at some priority targets, and we know they're priorities because Calipari spent so much time and the staff
Yeah.
courtside through the spring and summer at any event they could to see these guys. And then when you see constantly reporting day after day during these live eval periods where the coaches are, who they're watching, then you see the next payday, which is getting them on
Mm.
campus scheduled for visits. Well, they haven't been on campus yet. And sometimes those things change. Sometimes they never happen, but
Yeah.
they've gone public some of these dates. And so, we'll go in chronological order at how the dates look right now. And it starts mid-September with Erfan Diani. I have him ranked as the sixth best player in the class of 2026, a 5-star. 247 Sports has him ranked 15th, so top
Okay.
15. The number one center, pretty much consensus in the country, out of Iowa United Prep. Very skilled, talented guy at 7'1", 280. The motor up and down both ends is great, but his visit dates have already been published a couple of times differently. It's a moving target right now, but he reached out to me yesterday on Saturday and said, "Hey, I'm going to visit Arkansas September 12th through the 14th." So that's a Friday, Sunday run, and that's not a weekend where the football Hogs are hosting a game. They'll be on the road against Ole Miss that weekend. But Calipari in the previous recruiting cycle showed that he's unafraid of bringing players in during football season when there's not a home game.
Yeah.
So he's already set a precedent that he's willing to do that. In fact, of these three that we're talking about today, two of those are that same example. So, you've got Air Fandiani planned in for that weekend. The following weekend, the number two player nationally, it's how I have it on my board. Most other services having two or three. Jordan Smith Jr., 6'2 guard out of Fairfax, Virginia. This dude, I think, is the best two-way player in the country, Jacob. Offense, defense, regardless of position. Uh, J.J. Andrews, who's already committed out of Little Rock, not far behind him. He's in that
Mm,
conversation for best two-way player, but I've got it with Jordan Smith Jr. right now, and he's set to come in the weekend of the Friday, the September 19th, concluding Sunday the 21st of September. Once again, the Razorbacks
yeah.
football team will be away from home. They're in Memphis for an interesting road game at Memphis, not too far away, but not on campus. So you've got that visit set, and then Tay Kenny, another 5-star guard, another 6'2 guard, hails from the state of Kentucky. The staff was recruiting him back when they were still in Kentucky. He's playing at Overtime Elite. We know that's where Calipari has landed players over the years, including since coming to Arkansas, Carter Knox, followed by Malik Thomas. So there's all kinds of connectivity in the Calipari recruiting wheelhouse with Tay Kenny. And you're looking at the weekend of September 26th to the 28th, I believe. And the football Hogs are home hosting Notre Dame, which will be, arguably Arkansas's non-conference Super Bowl game of the decade. However you want to pray, it's a big one, right? I
It
mean, and
is.
getting them
Yep.
at home. So you got Tay Kenny coming in that weekend. So you start thinking about some of the teams. I mean, Arkansas is in great shape, I think, with both Deanne, Jordan Smith Jr. in terms of being at the top of the pecking order. I think with Tay Kenny, you're looking at the home state schools, Louisville and Kentucky, but Arkansas maybe not too far off. So Arkansas is in the top three, two or three mix with most of these players. And I think that's why Calipari's comfortable enough bringing him in for visits. He's not going to be used as a visit destination if he thinks he's being used to drive up someone else's NIL amount, or if he doesn't really feel like the team's in the mix and someone's just taking a tour of college campuses, he's not going to be a part of that. So you trust Calipari's judgment on the visits that he allows to be set up. Doesn't mean he's going to get all of them, but you got to feel confident with three visitors
Yeah.
in September, going through the month of September. We'll see what plays out. Arkansas actually have more home games in October, so we'll see in football. So we'll see, do any of these get moved to any of those weekends? We see visit dates change a lot. Are they kept? And then how many of those players, because each one of them has other visits scheduled, to a man, each
Yeah.
one has other destinations scheduled. Some after the Arkansas visit, some Arkansas is the last visit, at least with Tay Kenny. So one there. The other two, Jordan Smith Jr., Erfan Diane, have visits set up after Arkansas. And, Arkansas is efforting to get other players set up with visits as well. Tyron Stokes, the number one player in the country, 6'7" wing, 5-star, originally from Louisville, plays on the left coast. Another one to keep an eye on, as some other players, and we'll talk more about those as we hear more down the road, and when they might be coming in, or if they plan to come in again. Some have already been on campus and might be looking at revisiting.
You did it a bit there, but I'm not asking you to make a crystal ball in August of 2025. But if you just right now roughly had to rank, by confidence of those three visitors of where Arkansas kind of stands with those guys, how would you rank it 1, 2, 3 in terms of hey, Arkansas is in a good position, confidence that maybe Cal can close the deal and bring them to Fayetteville?
I think once he gets them on campus, it increases. Once those
Okay,
visits actually materialize, it increases the confidence level. Looking at it now, just knowing that they're scheduled, I'm around 6.5 on a scale of 1 to
okay,
10, and my confidence level in Calipari getting to the finish line with a win. I'm a little higher with Airfan Diane
yeah,
and Jordan Smith Jr. right now. Take Kenny, I can get there. I can get there.
okay,
You know, it's kind of just based on what you hear in the undercurrents. But I think getting him on campus is the big part.
hmm,
And so again, with Air Fandiani, his visit dates have changed a little bit. And then once the young man gave me the information, I tweeted that out for this September 12th through 14th visit weekend. His guardian this morning messaged me and said, "Hey, we're still considering visit dates to not be locked in yet,
hmm,
and we won't have a finalized list actually published until September 5th," which is what he told me 2 days prior. But then his player sends me a list of visits. He sent me Arkansas's visit date, the 12th through the 14th. He's visiting Kentucky a couple of weekends after that, later in September. And then in mid October, he's going to take an official visit to Houston. A lot of folks think Houston's the leader. He just took an unofficial visit to Houston on
hmm,
Friday. So when you ask me about confidence level, you're really trying to, you
yeah,
know, read the tea leaves, figure out, well, he's visiting Houston twice and they're the perceived leader. That doesn't put me at a scale of 10 on a scale of 10, 1 to 10, that Calipari is going to get it done. Although when Arkansas gets him on campus, it increases my confidence level, but that's got to happen.
yeah,
So it's kind of explanations like that. I don't have a belief right now. I have one source on Jordan Smith Jr. that thinks that he's going to end up being a Razorback, but I have 2 or 3 others that think it's either Duke or Georgetown.
hmm,
So these are not as clear as mud, even.
yeah, yeah,
They're not
yeah,
even that clear right now. So
yeah,
we're instead of hog leans or not hog leans, we're thinking more about Calipari's track record
yeah,
and that progression of the long pursuit. Even in this NIL age, if you look at these players, Jacob, he's recruited these guys for well over a year. This
hmm,
isn't a Johnny come lately. Oh, these guys really blew up in May and kept it going. Let's offer them a scholarship. No, he's been on their campuses. During live recruiting periods, the offers have been out for a long time. These are long term relationships that have been building. In addition to ramping it up at this point in the process to getting them set up for visits, the only thing after that is once you get them on campus is sealing the deal, closing it.
hmm,
Calipari's the best closer ever. So let's see what shakes out over the next couple of months with some of these, and then other visits maybe that spill into the October month.
yeah, yeah. Hard to forecast at this point for sure. In August of 25, a long way to go on all those recruitments. Will be interesting to follow, especially as the visits start materializing. But let's take one more quick break. When we return, we'll talk a little pro hogs. Give a quick shout out to a pro hog finding himself a contract. One more quick break before we wrap up on the Hog Hoops Report. All right, back on the Hog Hoops Report, wrapping up shop. Kevin McPherson and Jacob Morris with you. And Kevin, before we go, got to give a quick shout out to Ricky Council signing a deal with the Nets. He's a guy who is he's worked his way, to the NBA level, signing contracts, all the above. It's always great to see a guy get recognized like this. But his case and his journey, I think, is particularly fascinating and one where he's had to fight to get where he's at, and it's great to see him get rewarded here.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy that when you look at Philadelphia, he didn't get
Hmm.
drafted on
Yep.
on draft night. It was thought he might go second round. And you remember Courtney Mims and I were in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center to cover that draft. Eric Patrick Musman, the head coach at the time, was there because it looked like potentially 4 Razorbacks were going to go in the
Yeah.
same draft. That hadn't happened since the early 90s. And so, obviously you had Anthony Black going in the lottery. You had Nick Smith Jr., a late first rounder. You had Jordan Walsh going in the early second round. But you had Ricky Council, who technically didn't get drafted. He signed a undrafted free agent deal on draft night with Philadelphia. He parlayed that into a two-way deal, and
Yeah.
he quickly was able, as a rookie, that got shifted to a 4-year, most of it non-guaranteed deal. And he's already now 2 years through Philadelphia. There were times he was in the rotation. The
Hmm.
76ers, like a lot of NBA organizations, going through a lot of injuries or other things. So he was actually in a two-deep rotation at times for the Sixers in year two, a couple of times in year one as a rookie. And now he moves on to Brooklyn. So it's not far away. Philadelphia, Brooklyn, he's still out there in that Eastern Conference near that Eastern Seaboard. But good for him. And, Brooklyn just had, I think, a five-player NBA draft.
Yeah.
They had a lot of picks, a lot of those first round, and a lot of folks thought, they're going to trade out of some of that. They're not keeping all those. Well, they did. So that's going to be a young team. They'll
Yeah.
bring in some veterans. That'll be a young team. So it might be opportunities for him to be more than just back end, of the roster kind of guy. Now, he may end up being that, but that's better than not being in the NBA.
Hmm.
I'll tell you that much. Good for him going into year three. Ricky Council the fourth. Kudos to him. And the Pro Hog brand is strong, man. And anytime you hear news of a new contract, that means somebody wants you,
Yeah.
and you're going to be in a uniform the next season, helping that organization out.
Yeah, I don't know if Brooklyn's going to win too many games, but if anything, maybe that means more opportunities for Ricky, right? Just in terms of more opportunities to showcase the skill set, all the above. And again, anytime a contract is signed, it just helps push the brand forward. And again, it just not to keep hammering it, but like you described, right? Just that journey of saying, hey, I was going to get drafted, doesn't get drafted. Sign. I mean, he has had to work his way through literally every level of contract in the NBA to get to where he's at. It's really impressive. Happy for him. But that's all the time we have on this week's Hog Hoops Report. That is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. We've got more Picture Show coming up on the other side of the break. Kevin and I will be back to talk to you next week.